Uh, I was gonna mention your mom, but I decided to say my wife's face. I think that's probably what I pick, man. A lot of, I'll speak for men because I don't know about women, but it does seem like the men with RP or, and I would even guess disability, but I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. But it's a lot of men like to suppress it because it doesn't feel uh, masculine to kind of think about a future where they need to be guided everywhere. Or that's the biggest obstacle I've had to kind of overcome is my own mental block of feeling, should I be a voice, in this kind of realm. And I've thought long and hard, and I've been doing this for over like 2 years, and I know, like, I'm getting way more confident to where I'm almost certain that, yeah, there is a place for my voice, because I think, the voice of the newly diagnosed is kind of, there needs to be a spot for that. And once I told my coworker, like, or my boss, I should say, it felt like so freeing. Like, it felt amazing. It felt like, it felt similar, like when you had this big speech you have to do, and then you're like nervous and anticipating it, and you're rehearsing it and all this, and then you, like, once the speech is over, or like your public speaking event or your public performance or whatever it is over, and you realize that you didn't, like, fuck it up, like, you feel relieved, and you feel like, oh yeah, I had that kind of sense of relief, and just kind of,
You should build it up, bro. It takes a lot of strength to hide something for such a long time and have everyone know
yeah,
your dark secret. Like I see a lot with the disability community too. Like they're kind of like it's a big deal to have a disability. It's just to disclose it to everyone because you know how society is. Like once you put like a red flag
oh yeah,
almost,
man,
like you're
yeah.
like it's out there and like it just takes a lot of strength to like just own it. Like that shit is powerful. They should be more proud of yourself.
Not driving is like their big thing. Like, there's like these big milestones, right? It's like
Hmm.
coming out, and then there's like not driving is like another big one, and then beginning to use a cane is like the third one. Especially I drove for 6 years. So I'm not 26 years, but I drove for like a decade.
You drove since you came out of the womb.
Yeah, and it's like that white cane, because like the white cane, I talk about how not driving is a signal, but like that's only
Yeah.
a signal when you're in those situations. But like a white cane is like a signal, like almost like a all it's like a signal that's always signaling to others. It's like a beacon.
Hello, welcome to my podcast, Two Mics, One Joe Suit. I am Joe Suit, and I'll be giving a mic to Lance. Lance is currently going blind with retinitis pigmentosa. It is a degenerative eye disease that affects peripheral vision. What that means that his vision is closing in from the outside in, essentially kind of like a tunnel. Some call it tunnel vision. He is also a fellow podcaster called the See-Through Podcast, where you can catch me. The episode hasn't been filmed, but it'll be awesome since I'll be in it. Duh. Since you will lose your vision, what is the last thing you wish to see, and why is it a woman's buttocks?
uh all right, we're starting out right out the gate.
Yes,
This is
sir.
interesting. I like being on the other side of podcasts,
Yeah, you can sit
because
back and
I get
relax
to see
and.
other people's styles. Well, yeah, and I don't have to edit it too, so it's great. So what's the
Oh, no
last thing I
pressure.
want to see? You asked. I would say, if you want me to get real sappy, I would say,
Well,
my
you can't
wife's
mention my
face.
mom. That's all. That's all I am asking.
Uh, I was gonna mention your mom, but I decided to say my wife's face. I think that's probably what I pick, man.
I mean, never. I mean, anyone can kind of think of that question just as a theoretical because almost blindness could really happen to anyone. Like there are people that I know, like a person that they were having a party and then they were doing champagne bottles and one of it, the cork went right in the eye and they became blind instantly. But since you have a slow
Oh, really?
degenerative, yes, it's really sad too. But you have a slowly degenerative definitive diagnosis that you will be losing your vision. So will your vision, so right now you're not legally blind, so will you be blind to the sense that you won't be able to see anything, or just have a very small tunnel vision of sight?
Yeah, it varies from person to person. I'm not legally blind, like you said, but my mom, which I inherited RP from, is legally blind, and she's in the lower 60s of her age, and she has about like less than 5 degrees of vision, so like very
Whoa.
small. So if I'm following her, like her genetics, that's probably like the route like I'm gonna be going down. I have friends with RP that I've made through my podcast, and they're younger than me and have less vision than me and are legally blind, and so it's really hard to pinpoint. Like a RP diagnosis really isn't like you can't really like know a lot from that. And compared to others with RP, for my age, I actually have like excellent vision, which is kind of interesting and adds kind of a new layer of to how I perceive myself as someone with experiencing vision loss, because my field of vision is on average better than other people's with RP. But nevertheless, like my future is gonna I'm gonna experience a lot more symptoms and a diminished field of vision. I just kind of want to prepare myself for that. That way it's not like a huge punch or to the face, or I just don't want to live in denial about what my future is going to be like. So that's a lot of the reason why I started my podcast, is to kind of learn from people who are further on their journey than me. Yeah, retinitis pigmentosa, or RP for short.
I mean, is there really any way to fully prepare for the inevitable? Because I have my own set of progressive disease too, and I feel like you can never really, you can like think about it, but you can't really prepare for it. It's kind of like hoping that it never comes, but we both know that day will come. Like, how do you like think about it, or do you more like push it down the road when it's necessary?
I used to not think about it. In fact, if a thought came into my brain, I would instantly kind of feel like a panic, and then I would instantly change the subject, or change the channel in my brain to something else. But I kind of got tired of doing that, and I kind of wanted to go the opposite approach and intentionally think about it, like force myself to face it. And that's part of I promise I'm not just advertising my podcast, but like that's part of the why I started my podcast, was to kind of force myself to think about it and realize what my future is going to be like, and learn more about it, talk to people who have RP and have been living with it, living with blindness for decades, and how are they adapting. I also talk to other people with just any kind of disability, because I think there's a lot of in terms of the mental adaptation kind of aspect of it, there's a lot I can learn from other people too, about how they mentally prepare, because you're asking me how I can prepare, and like you said, you are facing you're preparing yourself for something too. So I didn't want to limit who I could learn from, and that's kind of the perspective I take as a host, which hopefully makes it interesting, is that I'm trying to learn, so people are learning with me, So, I intentionally think about it, but yeah, I used to suppress it, and you don't get anywhere when you suppress it. And in fact, it just kind of snowballs inside of you. And a lot of, and I'll speak for men because I don't know about women, but it does seem like the men with RP, and I would even guess disability, but I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but it's a lot of men like to suppress it because it doesn't feel masculine to kind of think about a future where they need to be guided everywhere, or can't drive, or the can'ts of, well, I can't do this, can't do this, can't do this, can't do this. And in a sense, like, you can do it, you just have to do it differently. But even that sometimes is like hard for people to grasp is like, you can do it, but you can do it differently. To some, that sounds like empowering. To some, that still sounds like a nightmare. You know what I mean? So a lot of it's like perspective and, you know, learning to kind of rewire your brain and how you think about what your future is going to be like. All right, I know people who think about blindness as it's like that diagnosis is their death, and then I know people who almost seem like naive to their blindness, and they're just out there having fun and like have really fulfilling lives. And it's like, that's kind of been my favorite thing to learn, is it's kind of up to you what your perspective is going to be like. And I'm only talking about blindness, no other, you know, type of disability. But I know I kind of went off tangent there, but hopefully that answers your question.
I mean, I can kind of tell that you're still learning and still new to this world, because it seemed like you're interviewing other people, but it seemed like no one had ever asked you any of the questions that you kind of wish others would ask you till like today.
Yeah, I don't get interviewed that often, and when I do get interviewed, it's interesting because, like I said, I'm someone like early in my vision loss journey, is what I call it, and it's like I'm self-aware enough to know that you could have interviewed someone with RP who's way further on their journey to like get that perspective of blindness. Like, that's not what I'm bringing to this podcast. Like, my perspective, like you're not bringing me on to talk about blindness because I don't live with blindness. I live with vision loss. Like, I have a diminished field of vision. Like, I'm somewhere in between the 30 to 40 degrees of vision compared to like the normal like 180. But like, I'm not legally blind. My central vision, what I do see is 20/20 with corrective lenses. So it's like, but my perspective, I think why you brought me on and why people maybe find me interesting and want to hear me talk, is that I'm super curious. Maybe I can speak decently and provide fascinating thoughts and takes on things. And also, like, the guest I bring on, I'm very selective of who I pick and choose to talk to, the questions I ask, how I make the content. Like, I'm a professional video editor, and I've been doing that for over a decade. So it's like, I kind of have this like perfect storm of a personality with a certain skill set that made me want to be a podcaster. And I think that's why people are drawn to me, not really because of my retinitis pigmentosa, but I'm a podcaster, YouTuber, editor, you know, kind of creative who's living with RP or learning to live with RP. So it's that like learning to live with RP, I think, is what people find interesting paired with all the other things.
Well, thank you for coming on my podcast, because I'm looking for someone that's actually disabled here. So, like, I don't know what we're talking about, but no, I mean, I think I get where you're coming from, that you just don't feel like you're really part of the disabled group, but for one, you have a definitive diagnosis of it, and you're going through the process of it, and you just happen to be later, but that shouldn't diminish how you're feeling in any capacity. And just, you're going through a different, you know, you could kind of play both cards. You could say it's easier to do when you're younger because you're used to it. When you're older, and then when you're older, it's kind of like you put more into perspective, like you're having a career. And so, like, to talk about your career, like, so you were a video production person, videographer at one point.
Yeah.
So I have here that so back in North Carolina, you had a clearly visual job. You did not disclose your disability to anybody since you did not want to be affected financially and people to treat you differently. When or why did you decide to disclose your disability to everybody?
Yeah, great question. You know, like, and I appreciate you saying that. You know, that's the biggest obstacle I've had to kind of overcome, is my own mental block of feeling, should I be a voice, you know, in this kind of realm. And I've thought long and hard, and I've been doing this for over like 2 years. And I know, like, I'm getting way more confident to where I'm almost certain that, yeah, there is a place for my voice, because I think, the voice of the newly diagnosed is kind of, there needs to be a spot for that. And I think the newly diagnosed is actually, and I'll get to your question, but the newly diagnosed is almost like a better, it's almost like in terms of bridging the gap. I always talk about that, bridging the gap. And like for example, you have a successful YouTube channel that not people without disabilities watch too. It's not just like people with disabilities watching a YouTube channel, and that's like the goal, right? Like, you're not just making content for people with disabilities. And
Well, like when I do my content, I
know,
always try to bring everyone together. Like you don't have to know anything about the person, and like
yeah,
kind of explain so they're all on the same page, so they can follow the conversation, whether they do have a disability or not. It does help people with disability to relate more, but I try to be open to everyone who can just understand the story
yeah,
and like ask questions for clarification and such like that. Or some people are so deep in the disability world that they'll say like acronyms or stuff, or they'll like say things that I personally know, but I'm thinking of my audience of like they don't know what like RP stands for, so I'll have to say retinitis pigmentosa just so that they can still follow just for that. I think that's what helps. But I, like I mean, I try to reach the widest audience I can, but also be at my
yeah,
style too. Somewhere there's like nicer, somewhere there's like, oh, let them talk. Like some have an opinion, and others like accept their opinion and then move on. I try to like put myself into it to like challenge their beliefs a little bit, like have a discussion. Like there've been some other like interviews that I've done that like we kind of I disagreed, but like we both had good points. And I try to be open to it because I'm not trying to be like this great person here. Like sometimes maybe I'll be wrong. I can't admit that I'm wrong when we have different experiences and stuff. Like just with you, like you have RP. I could interview 20 different people with RP, and they have totally different challenges. And some are better than others, some are horrible. It's so different. I just try to highlight each person and let them have their, I guess, hour of like just of themselves, because I have my other videos to showcase myself. So it's not even for me for like what is. So I want everyone to go to this episode and be like, who is Lance? Like, what does he do? Like, what is his personality like?
yeah,
That's that trend. That's what I go for.
yeah. I appreciate that, and I take a similar approach. And it's and I do want to answer your question, but I will say, you talk about seeing personalities, and this is kind of the problem that I face on my own podcast. Is like, disability can be such a intense subject matter that sometimes, like for example, like you ask a question about that's kind of vision loss. Like, it's easy for me to get kind of serious and like give like a serious answer, because it is serious, but
Yeah,
like that.
literally a real question. Not like you're
Yeah,
drinking at a bar and like, oh, how did you lose your vision? Like, what's the last thing you want to see? But like for you, it's a real possibility.
yeah, yeah. And that makes it to where sometimes I get lost in the in the thought process, where I feel like my personality doesn't get to like shine, because I'm quite a goofy kind of guy. But it is what it is. But I have to take it seriously. you know
No, I mean, I know
but
what you're trying to say. Sometimes you want like sometimes there's a thing that really like dark stuff. And like in my mind, I'm like thinking of a joke or something. But it's like, do I
yeah,
say it? Do I not? Like, do I continue the vibe or
yeah,
going? Like
yeah,
sometimes I'm thinking like they're saying a really sappy story, and I'm just dying to say like bam, this is Wendy's. It depends on the vibe really and
yeah,
such, and I try to make it like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
fun and entertaining, and kind of like throwing like a wrench in the. I think it makes it more fun. Like I think like people that do talk about disability stuff, I think sometimes they get too serious and it's too
yeah,
like I can tell with you that you're like in a like you kind of have a script that you're saying a lot of the times, and I can see sense it in you, and I can sense it in other people. Like they have done this so many times that it kind of just robotic to them. So I did kind of like let them relax, have fun with it, just have a great conversation. Like
Yeah.
I think it shouldn't all be that serious. And I think
Yeah,
I get you.
that's a good point. The
Yeah,
script.
like I get using your disability as like advantage, like a marketing thing, but sometimes it's not about the disability too. There's just other things that you want to talk about, like just fun things too. Like we're human too. Like we like want to laugh about stuff too, and like I think it's good to laugh at our disabilities. I think that's what makes us human. Like it's not
Yeah.
serious. Like sometimes we're talking about the disability, but we're not talking about ourselves at that point. Like it's two
Yeah.
different entities, and I try to have the human element out of it. So like I want everyone to watch that and your episode to be like, hey, that's me. I can say that this is Lance, and this is how he is reacting to stuff. So I to try to bring that out of each person.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, the script part of it, sometimes it does feel like a script. And no offense to you, but it's like, because sometimes it's a question that I've answered. Like, when you answer a question, I'm sure like when I interview you, you're going to have answers that you've said before. So, it's just, and it's like, how do you bring personality to these things that you've already said like so many times,
Yeah, I try to challenge myself all the time to do it differently every single time, so every episode is a little bit different. But yeah, you can't like change the definition of retinitis pigmentosa. Like, you can't do that, but like you can change like the delivery of it, the way you put it
Yeah.
together, like putting an analogy together. You can change things up.
Yeah.
I think I just keep challenging myself. That's why I always do these things. It's like I don't know. I did love the challenge of it, but we gotta go back to you, bro. This is about you.
Yeah, see, I'm used to interviewing. But yeah, man. All right, so I'll just answer your question.
Yeah,
So your
let's go.
question was, why did I disclose it, right? Why did I disclose it?
Yeah, when did you decide
And,
like, hey, this is time to everyone to know that I'm dealing with RP?
well, I was 26, going on 27 when I disclosed it. And I was working as a videographer, editor. I worked for various ad agencies, like small advertising agencies in North Carolina, where I would shoot and edit and produce, like schedule and shoots and show up, and I would shoot video or photos, and then I would edit everything. So my job was like very visual. And it got to the point where I was driving, but I was starting to feel anxious driving because, cars would kind of pop out of nowhere, or if I had to shoot, somewhere that I wasn't familiar with, I felt like unsafe driving because my RP was kind of affecting it's affecting my ability to see. And also, film sets, are usually dark with expensive equipment everywhere. And I was just moving slower. I'd work with coworkers, and they'd be like, "Hand me this lens," and I wouldn't know where they were, and I would just kind of hold the lens out, and it would kind of like take me a little bit of time to like find, what they were trying to hand me. So it got to a point basically where I couldn't hide it anymore, and in fact, if I kept hiding it, it would be worse than me disclosing it, because then people would be like, Lance just like, is Lance like slow? Like he just like, well, like when I asked him to hand me that, he like took forever to like, so it almost made me look better by disclosing it too, like being honest.
Yeah.
And also like friends and, would be like, yeah, let's go out. And if it's nighttime, it would like mentally trip me out, because with RP, when it's darker, your eyes don't adjust to, changes that well. So it's like common, and I find it kind of funny, but it's called night blindness.
Mm-hmm.
Which some people are like, yeah, no shit, night blindness. But it's just like your eyes just don't adjust to dark situations that well. So I was opting out of going to social events, and things like that. And
I had my own version of night blindness too.
oh, really?
Yeah, like I don't know if there's like a severity scale of it, but I didn't even know I was night blind till like after college, because like I'll be at night out and then people be like, "Oh, come to the car and stuff." So I'm like, I can't see shit. So like what I will have to do is like first be like slow, like one I
Yeah.
thought I was just drunk all the time, so like I thought maybe that was it. But like what I did, what I guess was really smart, now that I use my phone because the phone lights things up. And then if I really need it extra, I'll just use like the flash of the phone, and I'll just use my phone to find my way, so I don't like trip and kill myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a common trick, using the phone. It's a classic, actually. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. Maybe I'll talk
Yeah,
to you about
like
that
I
on
didn't even
the
know.
interview.
I didn't like. I just assumed everyone was able to see better, and like I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I went to the optometrist, and then he did ask me like, "Do you have trouble seeing at night?" I'm like, "I think so." And then like, "Oh, you have night vision blindness." I'm like, "Oh, that explains so much." And like now, yeah, like
That's
now at night,
interesting.
like
Is
I
that
like light everywhere. Like
Yeah?
I
Is that
like light.
common for your FOP?
No, I think I'm like the only person that I think it's like I'm at a level where it's like it's noticeable, but like not noticeable enough to like do any research about it or like to
Yeah.
like find out about it. Like never did. Like if that doctor never told me about it, I would have never said anything. I just have like, oh, I have trouble seeing at night. But like you mentioned, like no shit, everyone has trouble seeing at night. So like,
Yeah.
you couldn't like talk to anyone about it. But yeah, so I do have that kind of diagnosis. So yeah, so I kind of can relate to you in that sense.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and but yeah, it throws like a curveball because social events. If you're most bars are dark, most restaurants are dark.
Yeah, it's horrible.
So yeah, so you'd miss like handshakes and social cues that kind of make you seem awkward and things like that.
You're the
Someone
weird
would
kid
be
now.
like, "Yeah, hey, what's up?" and put their hand out, and I just would see them, and then they would be like, "Yo, shake my hand," like it kind of thinking I'm like
Yeah.
disrespecting them or whatever, and that's like so not my personality. Like I'm very friendly. I'm not the most like sociable person. Like I'm introverted, but like I don't want to come across like a dick. I don't want to be like that. I'm not like I don't want anyone to perceive that I think so highly of myself that I'm not going to shake someone's hand.
You
But
sure
it's just
about
like
that,
little
bro?
things like that. And uh, well, that's why we're doing this interview remote. You know,
Yeah, I mean, I
I
get it.
can't
Like
be
the
in the
first
same room as
interaction
you,
is the
dude.
most important. Like, and you don't want if you
Yeah,
establish yourself as a dick, it's very hard to come out as a dick. So, like, I get it. It's
yeah,
frustrating, and you don't want to like be at a bar and be like, oh, I have this disease and all this stuff. Like they're not even
exactly.
listening half the time. So it's like,
Yeah,
and then it's like, oh my god, like now everyone thinks I'm a dick, and it's like no, but
uh huh.
like I get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I had enough of those situations, and then paired with work, paired with I kind of didn't want to shoot video anymore. I wanted to just edit because I would feel way more comfortable just editing. So I just decided, like most people my age do, to rip the band-aid off and do a classic, social media post, kind of announcing,
Mm,
you know, hey everyone, I have RP, and it was around the time I decided to move to New York,
okay.
and I felt like it was just a good way to kind of just announce it and tell everyone, and so yeah, that's kind of how I did it. And I said like I'm moving to New York because I don't want to drive anymore, and I can use public transit. I also just want to edit now. I can just edit in New York. Versus in North Carolina, you kind of have to wear a bunch of hats, just kind of because that's how the industry is there. It's not much, you can't really like hyper focus on one thing. I mean, you can. It's just a lot more rare. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to get it out of my system. I kept it secret from like close friends of mine, coworkers, and I just kind of wanted to get it out there and feel like I'm not chained to it.
I mean, it
Yeah.
seemed like you took this extra step already. Like you didn't even tell I mean, you did tell your coworkers and stuff, but you didn't tell them and then have them accommodate you. You were like, I have this, and I'm gonna have to make these rash decisions of like, you moving to New
Yeah.
York City so you can video edit. Like you realize that oh, you
Yeah.
can't be on set anymore because you were almost a hazard and almost like not, I guess, suitable for the job.
Yeah, and I had a job at the time at a software company called Red Hat, and I was part of their internal video production team. And I was telling them I told them first before I did the social media post, and that was like the
Hmm.
first time I had ever disclosed to an employer. and like I really enjoyed that job, and I really enjoyed my coworkers and my supervisor. So I didn't want to be like, hey everyone, I'm leaving, going to New York, and
Yeah.
and then thinking like, oh, Lance thinks he's so cool, like he's quitting his job
Yeah, he
and
did.
moving to
Landed
New
a
York.
dick.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. So I told my coworkers, and I told them my reasoning for it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want them to think that I was just being like, the classic like, I'm quitting and moving to New York. So, and then once I told my coworker, like, or my boss, I should say, it felt like so freeing. Like it felt amazing. It felt similar like when you have this big speech you have to do, and then you're like nervous and anticipating it, and you're rehearsing it and all this, and then you like, once the speech is over, or like your public speaking event or your public performance or whatever it is over, and you realize that you didn't like fuck it up, like you feel relieved, and you feel like, oh yeah, I had that kind of sense of relief, and just I kind of wanted to ride that wave more, and just like, well, let's keep this going. And then once I moved to New York, it felt nice because like everyone I met technically could find my Instagram and know that I had RP.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't hiding it anymore. It felt freeing in that regard. And then, especially now, I have the podcast. So like, if I meet anyone that they've follow me on social media, they're gonna know like, oh, Lance has a podcast about blindness and disabilities, and it's just kind of it's nice to be able to be open about it. I think a lot of people don't understand that, and a lot of people just try to hide and mask, whatever it is they're going through. And it doesn't even have to be like a disability. It can just be like something, personal to you that you disclose and hide. And I think that's just personally my experience, just kind of opened my eyes to
I mean, it
feel
also takes strength to share your story too.
truth
That
is
takes
freedom.
Yeah, it takes a lot of strength to share your story too. That's just like a lot of people don't realize it takes a lot of, like writing up. Like I'm sure you had this experience when you wrote it in your notes app. Obviously, you did the notes app. Like you're like kind of shaking a little bit and stuff, and like, oh my god, like you're editing it like 20 times. You probably sat on it for a couple of days, and then
Yeah.
like you like copy and paste it into like the Instagram thing, and then like you have like a couple of seconds of you like pressing the upload button, and you're like freaking out a little bit, like anxiety setting in, and then you click it, and then you're just like, oh my god, what did I do? Like you're like freaking out a little bit, and then after a while you kind of have like the calm sense. So like you get no
Yeah.
like for like 2 minutes, you're like, oh my god, I just fucked this up and everything, and then like
Yeah.
kind
No,
of
yeah, 100%.
yeah, and then
Hundred
like
percent.
and then it kind of like cools down a little bit, and then you become more like relaxed about it. And it's like it's out there.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm taking a step, and that's it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I can send you it because I like filmed like a video. Like I filmed a video of announcing it. But like, yeah, writing the script for the video, I can send you the video so you can see it. But yeah, it's just wild, And you talk about strength, and I think, can, it does take some strength to do that. I
Of course,
won't
yeah.
I won't downplay that, but I also won't, build it up either. But like,
You should build it up, bro. It takes a lot of strength to hide something for such a long time and have everyone know
yeah,
your dark secret. Like I see a lot with the disability community too. Like they're kind of like it's a big deal to have a disability. It's just to disclose it to everyone because you know how society is. Like once you put like a red flag
oh
almost,
yeah, man.
like you're
Yeah,
like it's out there, and like it just takes a lot of strength to like just own it. Like that shit is powerful. They should be more proud of yourself for that.
yeah. I call it like coming out, and that's what I called it. Like I came out as someone with RP. That's kind of how it felt like. Because it's like making something that was really private to me, like as public as possible. And now with my podcast, I'm doing that like times 1,000, and openly talking about how it makes me feel, and what I think about my fears, concerns, and all these types of concepts that I'm like, trying to figure out for myself. And then on top of that, And this is where it gets real tricky, right? Because that's like step one, and then you realize once you kind of out yourself that there's this large community. Now that you're a part of this large community, and in that community there's such like a wide variety of perspectives. There's like purists who are like, if you're not fully blind, like I don't want to fucking hear it, you know. And then there's people who are like really like you know, there's a phrase that gets said a lot: blindness is a spectrum, you know. And I agree with that statement. You know, I'm on that spectrum, you know, but people are further on that spectrum than me. So it's like, even though I came out, you know, someone with RP, doesn't necessarily mean I'm accepted. I'm accepted by this person, but not that person. And then you kind of got to find out your second identity. All right, I've decided that, all right, I will label myself as someone who is going blind. All right, now what's my identity in the blind community? Because now I get to figure that out, and that's been a process. And it's you know, like with your disability, it's like super rare. You know, RP is very rare too. It's like 1 in 4,000 people had it. But like compared to like your numbers, like what is there, like 800 people in the world?
900, but yeah,
who have 900. So like yours is like ultra rare. And now I'll say that for your interview, but like, I was gonna ask, like, it's just kind of like, it's rare, but a lot of people have it at the same time, so it kind of makes it interesting. I mean, if that makes sense.
I mean, to
try to figure out an identity, to figure out your identity as like your RP identity, and then trying to keep it separate from.
I don't really understand like what you're trying to do. Like, I just feel like just be yourself and then have a disability on top of that. Like, I don't understand really the identity, because like in my disease, I don't really care about any of the other people that have my disease. Like, I met good like couple hundred of them, and I don't really get along with most of them, and it's like, that's fine with me. Like, but at the end of the day, like, I think you're pushing the disability too much forward, and it should go more for personality. Okay. Like, yes, we have a disability and stuff, but after you know, like after the podcast, we're not gonna be talking about disability. We're gonna be talking about other things, just normal human things. Like, it's kind of just like it's just it's like right now it's just marketing and business, but like after a while you talk about regular things. Like, let's talk about when you went to the woods with the other guys to do with RP, like, did you talk about your disease all the time, or were you just talking about regular things, just like any other human people would do, just a group of friends? Like, did you talk about RP, or did you talk about regular things?
Yeah, that's a great point, and I appreciate your honesty with that. You know, and I think since I'm new, that I'm still like finding my way, I guess. I think that's part of why maybe I come across that way. But to answer your question, you know, I recently went camping with, you know, met a lot of guys I've met online. I've had them on my podcast, but we all got together and went camping, you know, camping in someone's yard, you know, that kind of thing, not like deep in the woods.
Sounds so much fun too.
We just kind of hung out and talked. Yeah, and we had a lot of fun, and to your point, like, RP was barely talked about, you know.
Exactly.
So it's
a glue for you guys to be together, but that doesn't have to be the reason that you are together. You know, like, you could just, I'm sure there's, I don't know, let's say 10 guys there. You know, I'm sure maybe you like them all, but like, I'm sure you like 2 of them better than the rest. Like, 2 you'll stay in touch more because you get along better, you know, socially, like, you have different values and stuff. But that's really with everyone. It's like,
sure.
After a while, this becomes not a disability person. It just becomes who they are. Like, people, like, you can kind of say, like, some people come to my channel for my disability and my unique story, but then they ended up not liking me as a human, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I'm gonna keep doing me. Like, I have a very brash personality, and I understand that. And like, I do sex jokes and dick jokes, and you know, like, some people love it, some people don't. Like, I'm a bit thinking it's like religion. Like, I'm an atheist. Like, say it out loud. Like people don't like that, and like
Yeah.
can I can be one of those one that's like trying to include everyone and be like just have the widest audience available, but I don't. I'm just being myself and just hope people react to me. And then after a while, like I sure people don't see me at my disability. They just kind of see me just doing my regular thing. Like I think it's like everyone.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like kind of like
Yeah.
when you're dating someone, like you think, oh, they're so beautiful and stuff. But after a while, you don't see them as you don't see them. You see their personality, like their looks. They kind of like go to the back seat, and like you want to see like what are their personality like? Will we get along? Like, can we? They're the
Yeah.
future of us together. It's. I think that's what happened. I can see that you're still getting your feet wet with this, and I think it's great to just explore. But I think you just
Yeah.
to keep your Lance identity and to keep doing that and to keep doing it. I think like you're a great person. I think you're a cool ass dude, and I think people will like that and just keep doing you.
I appreciate that, man, and that I do. I try hard to do that, and in fact, I'm changing up the structure of my podcast because of that. Because like I've been just doing interviews, really, and every now and then I'll do like a solo episode. But next year I'm doing one solo, one guest a month because I think that's going to be a good way for me to talk about myself, and people get to know me a little more. Because when I'm interviewing guests, it becomes more I want to tell their story, and yeah, I'm just trying to find that sweet spot to where I can be myself and not overthink things. And I think you're 100% right that it should just be more about the person.
Yeah, I mean,
And be,
most people don't like care about like maybe you could use RP as like a hook for people to come to you, but like after a while, people just
Yeah.
don't care about your disability. They care about like what like I saw a vlog that you did with your mom. I think that was really cool. That was just fun to watch. Like
Yeah.
you don't like you did mention the disease and such, but I feel like when I do my videos, I don't even mention my disease at all. At all. I just continue to do things because I have like a whole brand to myself. I guess it's a little different because I have a very physical disability, so it's like obviously there's something wrong with me. But you can just
Yeah.
I try to pretend my videos kind of like a real life thing. I'll bring up my disability if it has to be brought up. So like an example would be like I can't eat food to my mouth, so I have a tube in my stomach. So like when I do my vlog, I don't go like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't swallow or anything. I just go like I have a tube in my hand. I'm feeding myself. Like maybe I'll do like a little like a
Yeah.
lower third of like explaining what it is, but like I don't explain it in live time because most people don't do that. They're just living their life. So that's how I try to do it, and it kind of like you slowly build up through life
Yeah.
because that's how people do. You don't talk to a person and be like, "Hi, I'm Lance. I have RP and I can't." No, you just talk about I don't know like football or
Yeah.
just the Taylor Swift album. Anti-Hero is an amazing song. But like like regular thing. I just try to treat my like life treat the audience like they're a part of the just passing by in a way. Like I'll just bring things up that are necessary. The podcast's a little different because it's obviously disease oriented, but like I never talk about myself really. I'll like bring
Yeah.
things up to help relate to you, but like I don't I didn't mention once about my disease at all. It provides no relevance to this at all in any way, and it's all about you really. Like I have my ego in my other videos, and it's all about you.
Yeah, yeah, that I feel you on that. I think that's why I'm going to do the solo episodes because it'll let me take pressure off myself. Because in those videos I get to be myself, and then I think it'll help my interviews feel like I can just hone in on my guest's story even more than I already do. But yeah, it's like there's like what did I say? People come watch content or consume content for two reasons, like entertainment or education. And I guess I'm trying to have a little bit of both and find that sweet spot. It's kind of challenging. It's interesting, and it feels like you've figured it out. So I'm envious of you.
I mean, you're a YouTuber, so you should think of your life as like a catalog. So you'll have your videos, so you'll have your episodes for education purposes, and then you have your other videos for to do whatever you want. So you can have a vlog
Yeah.
for the day, or you can just do the talking bit. But that'll be your time, and then have the other time for talking about to the guests, and just have it separate. And I think that's what helping me out. But I also think of it like a marketing and business perspective too. Cause
Yeah.
like I just think of like, would I care about this person? No. Like that's how I think of it, and it's been working so far. I mean, I also had luck on my plate too, but I think that's a great approach to how to go. But we'll talk about that after the episode. I want to talk about more about Lance and his story. So I have here
Sure.
you decided to leave North Carolina to live in New York City. To live in a city with better public transportation. You decided to sell your car and not drive anymore for your own and everybody else's safety. How are you dealing with your progressive disability and having to make those life-changing changes in your life?
Yeah. The car is probably the best example of that because everyone drives, right? In the United States, most of the world, but I'll talk about the United States. It's like not many public transportation is kind of trash everywhere.
Yeah.
New York City, it's great, but at the same time, it has a lot of drawbacks. It's not perfect. So when you say you're not driving anymore, that's like a huge drastic change. That's one of the main things that most people I've talked to who have RP or who have some sort of visual impairment, not driving is like their big thing. Like there's like these big milestones, right? It's like coming out, and then there's like not driving is like another big one, and then beginning to use a cane is like the third one, and that's you. But like not driving is like where I'm at, and going on vacation, not being able to drive, it's kind of especially I drove for 6 years, so I'm not 26 years, but I drove for like a decade.
You drove since you came out of the womb?
Yeah, yeah. I was born in a back seat. I wasn't, but yeah, I drove for like 10 years, so it's kind of weird to have to know what that like feels like, that freedom feels like, and then to hang up the keys, for example, and to kind of just be cool with it. And a lot of people struggle really hard with that, and I don't know what it is for whatever reason. Like it doesn't bother me that much. The not driving aspect. I don't know why, but like, and part of me honestly feels like relief that I don't have to drive ever again. Because some people really like to drive. I was never one of those people. And maybe my vision had something to do with that. I'm sure it had a lot to do with that. But that's a good example. But in a weird way, it's like the not driving though. What it does, it's like a signal, right? It's a signal to people around me, that I'm different. So
Yeah, like
or
this
live
shit is serious
differently.
now.
So that's like the big hurdle with driving, more so than actually like grieving not driving. It's mainly just like, hey, I don't drive, and they're like, why? Because I have RP, and I have to do this long spiel or things like that. But it's really adapting to it and making big choices like that. I feel a sense of power in making those decisions myself and taking matters into my own hands, being like proactive versus just like sitting back and like having an eye doctor tell me like you can't drive anymore, and then I go just kind of have a mental breakdown, which is like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a mental breakdown. I know people who have had mental breakdowns, but I'm trying to avoid mental breakdowns. And my way of avoiding mental breakdowns is being proactive and being ahead of everything.
Yeah, you were really smart with that.
Yeah, so that's kind of my approach. So that's kind of how I'm tackling, like, handling, preparing myself for it. It's just trying to be ahead of everything. It's worked for me so far.
So now you live in New York City for like 2 or 3 years, if my math is correct. So how accessible is New
4
York
years.
to you as a blind person?
I just hosted a friend. I talked about that camping trip, and he flew in from Manchester, and he has RP, and he's legally blind. He's a cane user. I don't use a cane. I'm not legally blind. So showing him around. I was taking him around New York City, and he using the cane. So it was like a great learning experience for me to kind of see how others perceive it. I would see people's reactions to it. I could see how much of it he could do, if I weren't there, and how much I would help him as a guide. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that, like, for someone like me, who still has like a significant amount of central vision enough, like as I do, that New York is very accessible and the subway system rules. Like, I can get anywhere. Like, I have zero complaints, except it might be a slightly like dirty or unsafe, but that's like something that every New Yorker can complain about. And but like for someone maybe further on that their vision loss journey, a cane user with little vision, I don't think it's that accessible. But then again, I haven't explored it that much. Like, I haven't explored like the ride options, the access a ride, or But I know, like, a lot of stations aren't accessible with elevators, and there's so many like layers of steps where you get off to transfer trains. You got to get off, and then there's like go up 2 sets of steps, and then a long alley, and then you're going up 2 more sets of steps, and there's like signs that have these letters on it. And I was just, it kind of put it in my perspective that, like, oh shit, like, this is really hard for my friend, and it was hard for my mom, when she came to visit, so it kind of made me realize that, like, maybe New York's not like a permanent solution, but for me right now it's great.
I mean, I don't know what else you could go that would be more accessible for you, I guess. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably know more than I do in this arena, but I guess like the safest way for you to travel, I guess, would be by car, to go from building to building instead of relying on public transportation.
Yeah, and it's all about how you want to design your life. Like, I like to think about things like that, like life design. Like, I chose to live here, but like choosing to live here kind of dictates a lot of other things in my life. Like, I'm gonna have to rent versus own property. I'm not gonna have like a backyard. I'm not gonna have this or that I'm used to people having, where I'm from in North Carolina. But I get the advantages of New York City, which is like the subway, the entertainment. I go to a lot of stand-up comedy shows. I like to go to restaurants, like good coffee, kind of, just kind of the like exclusivity of like an eliteness of some New York City like places, that are just like top of the line. Some of the best of the world is right here, and I can just take the subway to them, or some of these things some of these places are like the best in the world, and I can walk to them, and it's just like, that's what I get out of it. But what I lose is, like, again, that backyard, or, not driving to work, having to pick a career where I don't need a car, and, and it's all about how you want to design your life. Like, at this stage in my life, it's New York City's working for me, but, maybe, down the road, if I have children or whatever, I may have to, design my life a little differently and pick a different lifestyle, but that's just kind of how I like to look at things.
Yeah, so like you mentioned earlier that your mom has RP and obviously passed it down to you. So do you have any resentment towards your mom for passing down her DNA to you?
Not at all. Zero. My sister also has it too, and I'm the youngest, and my older brother doesn't have he's the only one who didn't get RP. So I wouldn't say resentment, but that's kind of like, if I had to like pinpoint someone in my family who I'm like kind of giving the side eye to, I'm like, you lucky, so it's like because 2 out of 3 and you're the one, and then you don't even, on top of that, my brother doesn't even need corrective like lenses. He just has like natural like 20/20 eyesight, it's just kind of wild. But yeah, I don't like to think of it that way, because I like to think of it, it's just the way I was coded, and I can't fault anyone for that, and is it unfair? Sure, because it's a rare disease, but I look at it like this, like I'm glad I was born, you know. So in terms of resenting it or like factoring it into having like offspring, I look at it like, because my children have a 50% chance, you know, of having RP, and I'm just like, you know what, that's fine, you know, like I'm glad, you know, I was born, so obviously I'm not gonna not have a kid because of that. That
So
answers
let's
your
talk
question.
about your white cane relationship. So how is your relationship? Are you married? On a break? Long distance? Let's talk about it.
Oh, with the cane,
Hmm.
yeah, that's a big topic. Like I said, it's one of those three milestones. You know, it's like admitting that you have a visual disability, quitting driving, and then it's like that white cane. Because like the white cane, you know, I talk about how not driving is a signal, but like that's only
Yeah.
a signal when you're in those situations. But like a white cane is like a signal, like almost like a all. It's like a signal that's always signaling to others. It's like a beacon on yourself, you know. So in public, you know, and it, like for example, I was just out with my friend, you know, who visited, and we went around New York for like 3 days, and we didn't see one other person with a white cane. And I've seen, you know, plenty of white cane users, you know, living here, but I just found that fascinating, like that we didn't run into one other person. So,
Maybe you
you
didn't
know,
see them.
maybe, yeah. Uh, there was one thing that happened that was funny because, like in RP, there's like an inside joke that we hate like wet floor signs because it's like always out of our field of vision and we knock them over. Um, and I was guiding him, and that's kind of what's funny about all this is like I was guiding him around, but he was using his cane, and it's like that combo of like my vision paired with like his cane like made us like invincible. Like we had like no mishaps or anything. But the one mishap we had was we both just like bulldozed over a wet floor sign, which was we both had a good laugh at. So you know, not to get too far off into the topic, I just want to share that story because, you know, so for example, my friend uses a cane. He's legally blind. My mom, who's also legally blind, doesn't use a cane. So there's a large part of the blind community who just doesn't use a cane because they don't want that beacon on themselves, or they don't feel like they don't even know how to use it because they don't get adequate training or whatever. There's lots of reasons, but you know, there's a stat on this. I just don't know the number, and I don't want to butcher it. But there's like a large amount of blind people who don't use canes, and I am going to use a cane. I've definitely decided that. Like I have two canes. I bought one white cane that's more like traditional, what you'd expect to see, just because I wanted to, you know, fill it out, walk around my apartment with it, see how it feels. And then I also have what's called an identification cane, which is used to, you know, just kind of signal to other people that you have a visual impairment, but you're not using it like, you know, a classic white cane where you're like, floor, you know, going left and right on the floor, kind of filling out what's in front of you. So what I've been doing is, since I feel like I have enough vision to where I don't need to use a white cane, I've been using an identification cane, but I got it a little longer to where it can touch the ground. You know, I don't want to get to the specifics of ID canes, but typically they're shorter because they're used to kind of just signal to people. But like, and I got this tip from Victor, who you've talked to, and he
Hmm.
kind of hooked me up with this knowledge because this is how he uses. This is the cane he uses really, is that long ID cane, where it's long enough to touch the ground and you can kind of feel steps. So now if it's like, I struggle the most in like dark situations, and I've started bringing out my ID cane out, you know, at nighttime when I'm walking my dog and things like that, and it's been really helpful. So that's where I'm at, where I'm not quite ready to jump in full force with a white cane, but I do have an ID cane when I need it and need it. You know, it does provide comfort knowing that I have the ID cane because if I bump into someone, I have evidence that I have, you know, some sort of visual impairment. Whereas in the past, without a cane, I run into someone and they just think I ran into them. which is kind of this awkward exchange. Because then I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't see you," and they're like, "How the fuck do you not see me?" So which has happened a lot. Like I've tripped on someone in a park; they're having a picnic, and I just tripped on them and fell on their picnic blanket before just by not seeing them. So like I have had some awkward situations. So having a cane with me honestly feels like nice, because now if I do bump into someone, I can be like, hey, I'm visually impaired. You see my cane? And I reached out to this New York organization to try to get orientation and mobility training, which is what it's called, when you learn to use a white cane. And since I'm not legally blind, there's actually, it's kind of a process to get training without having to pay for it. And there's like some grant that I have to apply for. So it's kind of complicated, but I'm working on trying to get the training. Again, like I told you before, like I'm trying to be proactive and be ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the process. And that's my number one priority actually, is to get orientation and mobility training and know how to use a white cane. That way, when the day comes to use it, I've already kind of mentally prepared myself by using the IT cane, having the white cane in my room where I see it on the daily, and I'm not just like, it doesn't seem foreign to me anymore. It's kind of like a exposure therapy a little bit. And then hopefully I'll be able to just jump in and use a white cane and not really give a shit, like a lot of people do. But yeah, the white cane, like, it's a big deal. It's a big deal in the blind community, because it's a kind of believe it or not, I don't think people understand it, but it's actually quite like a controversial topic. It's like, use a white cane, and it's like, I don't want to, and it's like this battle. So
Well, I'm gonna buy a white cane so I don't have to see my ex anymore.
Yeah, you should.
So before I take the mic away from you, is there anything you want to say, promote, any words of wisdom, the winning lottery numbers? The mic is all yours.
Yeah, I'll say that I appreciate you being honest with me. It's rare, and that's rare. That's rare in this world we're in, and I think this world we're in has kind of warped my brain to maybe have that script in my head, or feel like I can't say this or can't say that, or because and your honesty is honestly refreshing, because it's what I'm trying to do more of. And I'm trying to get to the point, because all the people that I admire are people who speak freely. When I watch their podcasts, I know I'm getting them, like I'm getting them. And like, that's my goal, So I appreciate your honesty, I guess is all I'll say.
Well, let's talk about yourself, bro. This is all about you.
Well, no, I mean, that's it. That's, in terms of myself, like, go check out, my podcast. I'm on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, all the social media channels. My handle is @SeeThroughPod. Subscribe to my YouTube. That would be the best way you can support me. I have a lot of big things coming with my podcast that I'm super stoked on, and you're going to be on there. So if you want to see this interview but reversed with a lot of nuances, then go ahead and subscribe. And if you meet someone who's newly diagnosed with RP, tell them about me.
So thank you, Lance, so much for giving me your time and expertise. If you want to follow Lance, his handle is under his face right now, but it's also in the description below, so you can just click on it. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and I'll see everyone next time. Bye.
Peace.